Welcome to episode 34 of the Necronoma.com. Well, you're infected. We're all fucked. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now, and I accomplish all that because I eat my protein.
And I am Don Gilreay, educator, historian, writer. I just want to blame Gwyneth Paltrow for any pandemics or worldwide spreading diseases that might be taking place right now.
Well, all right then. Joining us
today, I watched
today,
Contagion.
We were going to do that, but like every other podcast is doing it, and I didn't want to get lost in the shuffle because we're too special for that shit. And that's why we're doing the host today. And joining us is our guest, Thomas Brungardt. Thomas, you've been here before. You know the drill. Tell us about yourself, man.
Yes, the restraining order has been lifted. I can be on the podcast again.
Woohoo! I don't know why you got a restraining order against us in the first place. Oh, anyway, go ahead.
I'm Thomas Brungardt. I'm a writer. Whatever the opposite of an influencer is, that's what I am. I got a lot of stuff online. You can go on, if you go on this podcast Twitter and find a post about this episode, you can click my Twitter handle, and then you can go to my Twitter page, and then in my profile you can click my IMDb page, and then when you're there you can go to my IMDb homepage and then find the tab that says videos, and it's just that easy.
I just did all that, and all it did was give me a little note that said you just lost the game. That's weird.
Guys, IMDb is the new MySpace. This is where shit is happening. And and I don't have to pay to use it, so go there and see what I've done. It's mostly enjoyable.
So I just said we're going to do the host today. So why did you pick the host?
So I wanted to do another monster movie, but this time I wanted to do a movie where nobody fucks the monster.
I'm disappointed.
Last time we did Splice, and I wanted to get away from that. And also, I'm half Korean, so watching this movie is like looking into half a mirror. I'm experiencing at least half of what they're experiencing. I get it, you know. So, no, but The Host is a really good movie, and I saw it when it came out in theaters, in cinema. I think when it's a foreign film, you have to call it cinema. And it hasn't aged well, but it's still a great story. So I think it's a good one to talk about. And, this director is so popular right now. So I think it's a good time to do The Host.
I just thought it was interesting that he has The Host and Parasite. I was like, are you going for some overall theme here?
Well, the movie wasn't called The Host in Korea. It was called Monster, or like the Korean word for monster. But I think when it came out here, it was on the coattails of like Monsters Ball and the Eileen Wuornos monster movie and Monsters Inc. So I think they just wanted a title that doesn't really make sense to the movie, but is different from things that were already out at the time.
And it's kind of a mixture of those three. So no, I'm just kidding. So you bleached your hair for this episode. That's super exciting. I'm so proud of you for that.
Yeah. Like a good Korean kid, it turned orange instead of yellow. So I look incredible right now.
Fantastic. That's what we like.
There's so much bleached hair in this.
I'm always very concerned that our guests don't look good enough, or our hosts are even worse looking. So, but nobody's complained about it so far, so I think it's working out. So I'm glad you put a lot of work into this.
I don't know what those guys look like, so it's okay.
All right, so let's jump in. Like, what's your big thing from this movie? What's the biggest social commentary you think we can pull from this?
I think it really parallels well to what's going on right now with coronavirus. There's a lot in this movie about, quarantining and being scared of people who've come in contact with the host or the monster. And there's a lot of, trying to stop people from talking about it as far as, silencing people and giving people lobotomies so they can't talk about the host. And I think that really relates to what's going on in the world right now, not to get too political.
we try to stay away from any type of politics on here, which is why I've waited till we got to, I guess, put 5 minutes into this discussion. Yeah, what struck me is, of course, watching this film when it came out in, 2005, 2003, something like that?
2006.
2006. That when it came out, the response would be completely different than it is now. Because even when Contagion came out, Contagion wasn't one of those things that people watched it, or even Outbreak for that matter. It wasn't one of those movies that people watched and was like, holy shit, this is really resembling what I can see outside my door. Aside from the weird, creepy, oily fish monster that you see in this film, whose genesis is really close to Toxic Avenger and Night of the Return of the Living Dead movies. You see how the government is so shitty in their response to what's taking place, to where they cause panic and mayhem when one person admits to, being around the monster, the fish, or at least the outbreak that they perceive as there. And what you see, at least in the news now, is it's even sports talk is getting on this, to where there's this consideration of, oh, should we have the NCAA tournament because you're going to end up putting all these people next to each other, to where their real frustration with the guys who were hosting this one show talking about it was they don't know what to do, because they hear one thing scientifically, and then someone comes out from the White House or associated with the White House and says something completely opposite. And then on top of that, not just the government response, but the human response of, you have all these people who think they know what the fuck is going on, and it turns into, oh man, it's because the Chinese, they eat bat soup. That's what did it. Oh, the Chinese because they eat this. Oh, because the Chinese did that. And as soon as you tell them that's not the reason, they then turn into, well, it's a government conspiracy to, this was some biological weapon that they were trying out, that they want to, they're trying to control it and make sure that people don't know what the truth is. And I'm thinking to myself, like, then how the fuck do you know the truth, Mr. or Mrs. I believe anything that I see on some random blog site? But the government response in this movie is not reassuring, because you're seeing practically the same thing, no matter what country we're talking about. And sometimes it's heavy-handed as far as the way the approach is, and then sometimes it's completely, I don't want to say misguided, but they're not thinking things through by quarantining people on a cruise ship when one or two people have tested positive for whatever it is, and then you turn the cruise ship into a Peachtree dish, where more people can get sick because they're coming into contact, or at least the service workers are coming into contact with people on all parts of the ship, and possibly transmitting any of the microbes or any particles of the virus onto other people, even if they themselves don't have it. But short story, wash your hands. Anybody who's listening, wash your hands. Stop buying the fucking mask so other people can't have them who need them.
I think that people don't even realize how masks work. Like, the mask works if you already have it, to block it coming out and not spread the, I don't know the clinical term for it, but you know how sneezing goes in all different directions. What?
Particulates.
Ooh, there we go. But it doesn't stop things going the other way as well. And my bigger concern out of everything you just said is, if you can't tell if you should listen to the scientists or to a conspiracy theory person, or your grandmother who makes racist rants, you don't know if you should get your science information from her, Jenny McCarthy. If you don't know who the fuck to listen to, I don't know how to help you already. And I kind of hope you don't wash your hands.
Wow.
All right, Thomas, you're up.
This got dark. Yeah. I didn't bring my hit list with me to this podcast, so I can't really contribute.
You can email it to me later.
I usually pocket it. Yeah. Oh well. I guess we should just get into the movie, because it starts off pretty, it just jumps right in with no real exposition about what's going on. Just this evil American guy telling the guy to pour formaldehyde into the river.
I love this. I don't have a better word for it, but the use of the token white guy who causes all of the problems is amazing. Like, it opened this way, and I was like, holy shit, this is already fantastic.
So many bottles of formaldehyde. So many.
They had dust on them. What else are you going to do?
It's true. You gotta get rid of that.
Well, but then there's also the person who's perceived to be the minority from a Western view, who's looking at the Korean scientist and says, who's basically saying, like, hey, this is formalin. I shouldn't put this in the water. It's going to go into the Han River. I shouldn't do this. The river is very. What killed me was then the white American starts speaking English very slowly. The river is very wide.
See, that's amazing right there. That's fantastic writing.
I thought that was great facting because, he's not that kind of scientist. He's not a marine biologist. He doesn't know a lot about rivers, but He knows that one's wide, right? So that makes it okay.
This is way better than all the small rivers we already infected. Oh, man.
So that whole scene is great, and I love the evolution of the creature that they show, where they have those two guys like fly fishing in the river. And it's like this strange episode of River Monsters, and then they capture this thing in a cup, and they're like, that's weird, and then they just throw it back in.
At least they didn't try grilling it.
Yeah.
No, I guess that would be a Louisiana thing.
I think it's a sign of like how the world's different now than it was even 15 years ago, because if somebody caught one of those now, it would be all over Twitter. There'd be pictures everywhere. Like, look at this strange thing I found,
Yeah, hashtag rather fish than work.
Fish are our friends, not food. Our second Pixar reference already.
It's a new drinking game. How many Pixar references can we get into this?
So yeah, no, I love the build-up here, though. Like, they're able to tell the story in a quick way, but it feels different than other horror movies, Like, it totally had me intrigued. Versus, this is exactly what I expect it to be, even though it's pretty much what I expect it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I love the beginning of this. And then we get to the family. So,
the family.
Walk us through the family, Thomas.
I could talk about this family for days. First of all, I want to talk about the daughter first, because I feel like she's a minor character, even though she is like the prize of the movie. But she is so not endearing that I just don't care about that character enough to want them to save her. She's rude. She's spoiled. She's an alcoholic.
Right?
Like, this is not somebody I care about, and we're supposed to care about this person. And it's just, that's one of the things that really always threw me off about this movie, is that that character is not somebody that I care enough about.
That's very true. I hadn't even considered that. I care about her father's journey, but I don't care about her.
His lack of protein as a child.
Yeah.
Made it into a narcoleptic.
It was preparing him for later in life, but he didn't know it yet.
He is a couple tentacles short of an entire split. That guy.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. What else is going on with this family?
I love that character, the dad, not the grandfather, but the dad with the bleached hair, because he's just so. They make him so dim-witted and slow, and just. My first question was, who is procreating with this man? Like, where is the mom? And
that's why she left.
Because he was so slow-witted.
No, yeah, she was like, I can't be seen in public with you. Like, I gotta go.
He probably fell asleep as she walked away. That's more than likely what happened.
Jeez.
So the story I wanted to tell you, James, about, so when I first saw this movie, that character of the dad being so slow and dim-witted gave me my idea for like one of the first pilot scripts I ever wrote. And it was about this dim-witted middle-aged man whose parents suddenly die, and then he inherits their Chinese restaurant. And I called it Dim Sum, which at the time was not as racist as it might sound now. I think it's a delightful pun. Nobody else thought so. I've been told many times that it's a terrible idea.
Yeah, well, what do other people know, right? Follow your dreams.
What do other people know? These are my dreams, and I'm going to fulfill them. I just need to keep giving myself positive, feedback. And anyway, so the family, the grandfather who owns the snack shack, his children are the dim-witted father, the alcoholic uncle of the granddaughter, and this Olympic award-winning archer daughter.
Right.
Who was only in the story because it, gives somebody skill for later in the film. But I didn't understand where that character came from. Like, such a successful character, I guess, coming from nothing. There wasn't a whole lot of story behind those characters. We just had to accept that they were, that was who they were.
I think it would have made more sense, except for the how did they hook up part. But I think it would have made more sense if that was the mom. She doesn't want to be a part of this family, right? And she's got other stuff going on. And yeah, she'd be a total jerk for leaving and everything, but she just doesn't fit with this family at all. You can't become an Olympic anything without the money to back it. So yeah. I don't understand where that comes from either. And maybe we don't need to waste story time on that, but that's the kind of shit I think about.
But when she comes back for the vigil and all four of them are sprawled out on the floor wailing and crying, I was like, oh yeah, she's part of this family. I get it.
Well, in fairness, her whole thing with the Olympics and why she's bad at it is that she's too slow, right? So,
right. Good point.
So maybe she does fit better than we think.
Maybe she didn't have enough protein. Just saying. I mean, apparently that seems to be the reason why everyone's so slow in the family.
Right.
Too much ramen noodles or too much instant ramen noodles and not enough protein to go along with them.
100%. That's true. But I like that he gives you just enough backstory about these people before the initial attack of the monster, which I love is so early on, and I love that you can see the monster in its entire being, right? It's not like most monster films where you get a glimpse of the monster and it's in the dark. This one is just this is what it is, and we're going to go for it, And
it's front and center, the full movie, too. It's not just it doesn't even start with the reveal of the shadows and slowly move into it like most horror movies, It's just you get it's hanging under the bridge and then it just here I am, motherfuckers,
And what, in all honesty, that's pretty much what we would face with, because if you have something like this around, it's not going to feel threatened enough to hide. It was hanging under the bridge, and then somebody saw it, was like, what the hell's that? That's weird. But here's what, for myself, when I was watching this, my first thought was, these fucking people on this beach or on this riverbank need to die. Because their first thought is, hey, there's something in the water. Let's throw shit at it.
Right? How is that their response? That was great.
There are a couple of the people who took out their phones to take pictures, but it's, hey, let me throw a beer at it and see what happens. And then they get excited because oh, it took the beer. It's going to. And then it becomes, hey, let's just throw anything out there. And like a lot of movies here, all I start saying is, all right, I'm cheering for the monster right now. Go ahead and kill everybody on that waterfront. And let's see what happens.
Well, they were all stupid because I think at one point some guy says, I think it's an Amazon river dolphin.
Yeah.
What?
The FRDs. They're a big problem down that way. So I know you said that this film doesn't hold up. I almost disagree. It's a little shoddy here and there, especially the fire. But I love this monster. I love how they use it. I love the tail. The tail is just great, right? Just grabbing things, whether it's swinging from things or pulling people places or whatever else. I would have liked to see more stabbing with the tail, just jamming it through people's chests. But outside of that, I love this fucking monster, and I'm so happy that they made it front and center, like I said.
So you wanted more Splice-like qualities in that tale.
I did. Like you said, like, why is nobody fucking this monster? You know?
I was going to say, you're going to get to a slippery slope with those comparisons, James.
Yeah, but if you really think about it, that tail is similar to the Splice tail, you know? Like, so I was kind of expecting the same little, like I don't know, needle-like quality there. I don't know. Maybe I was just too hooked on that. Who knows?
But it's an issue of, it's been done so many times, you kind of expect it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So this great monster just starts slaughtering people. And what I like about it is there's a lot of stampeding as well. It's not just I'm going to bite every single motherfucker that's here. It's almost like a kitten coming out to play. You know, like it's running over everything. It's clawing some shit. It bites people occasionally. You know, like, okay, fine. My cat's causing problems. I admit it. But my point is, like, I love this scene where this monster is just going roughshod out there. It's great.
Speaking of domesticated animals, my favorite part of that first attack sequence is like a 2-second clip of this dog biting a guy's leg.
Yeah, what was that?
Like the dog saw the monster and he was like, "Oh shit, are we doing this?" And then just starts rebelling. Like it's the only time it happens in the whole movie, and I'm like, yeah, that dog gets it.
I just want to know why. It was so weird. It was great. But yeah, I caught that and I laughed my ass off at it. I even went back. I was like, did I miss something? Why is this dog doing this? But no, I missed nothing. But yeah, this kill scene is just fantastic. You know, like it's such a great area to have this opening scene to show how dangerous this thing is. And also the widespread panic. You know, like there's people getting away and there's people that aren't anywhere near it. And there's people that run into safety and the monster is like, oh, we're going in this building? Cool, let's go. You know, like,
why do people always run away from a monster? I would run to where it was, you know, like, why would I run to where it's going? I'm going to go the other way.
And why aren't more people trying to ride it with a cowboy hat? Anyway.
Why
you know what? They'll have to do that when they do the when they do the American remake in Texas. I'm sure that's what's going to take place.
It'll be like that scene in Dr. Strangelove. There'll just be a guy on the back of it. Yeah.
Right. I would argue that the American remake has already happened. It was just Cloverfield, right? It's the same movie.
Well, I mean, other than showing the monster.
Other than showing the story of the monster. This movie is just an unfunny version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, this is the bad thing that could happen with dumping shit down the drain, right? Like, but that fight scene, there's a lot about that fight scene that I love. Not fight, but attack scene. But there's things in that bothered me at the time when it came out and still bothered me watching it again now, is that there's no physics involved in what's going on. They have the other bleached hair American guy who ditches his girlfriend to help the father attack this thing. And they pick up this street sign that has this giant concrete base and they're struggling to carry it. And then the minute they throw it, it has like the loft of a feather. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, then when the dad gets it the second time, he lifts it like it's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not a shot putting champion.
No, he has no Olympic talent.
No, I love that the guy throws it that way. Like, he totally shot puts it. You know, he like spins around and launches it. And I was like, that's so unnecessary. This is great.
So unnecessary. Oh, but I love the build up to that part, though, when the monster's just chasing that fat kid between like the RVs or the whatever they are. Like, oh, such a great horror movie scene. It's like the kid who can't run away fast enough.
I identify very heavily with people like that. Heavily. Anyways.
Look, the key is not outrunning the monster. It's outrunning everybody else.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Push somebody in the way, you know? That's why you should always have a slow friend with you. That's why Don takes me places.
Telling you. I mean, I didn't make it a secret.
You also always make me talk to the cops, but we can talk about that a different day.
Well, yeah. Keeps me safe. Keeps me safe.
So
Go on, Chip. I love when they're in this little building
and then the monster joins them, and you just see like what is it, a trailer or whatever? It's just like rocking and going crazy.
Yeah.
And then people are like, we have to let those people out. Fuck you. You know where the monster is. Why are you not trying to cage the other side of this thing?
Why aren't we
like
locking
close
the other
that
side,
door? Don't be opening more doors to get him out. There's blood cascading down.
Though. I appreciate when they have those people like crammed up against the other side and there's that puddle of blood underneath them, and it's an appropriately sized puddle of blood.
Yes.
It's not comically gory. It's like appropriate to what's happening, and I appreciate the realness of that.
Yeah, it's not like Sam Raimi directed this.
Although I would love to see a Sam Raimi directed Host remake. or Sam Mendes, and just have it done all in one shot. That's another movie I'd like to see.
That'd be interesting.
It would be. Well, it'd be like Cloverfield, I think. Anyway, so that scene ends, and well, before it ends, do you remember the scene where the grandpa comes out of the shack, like the snack shack?
Yeah.
And he has this look on his face, and I wrote this down. It's the look you have on your face when you're like exiting a communal restroom. And you're like, I hope nobody else is outside right now. And then there's somebody there, and you're like, oh no.
You didn't hear any of that, did you?
That's the face he makes.
That was me. I was just making the sound like. That's all that was. That's hilarious. I love that you wrote that down too. That makes it so much better.
I had to pause the movie because I was just laughing.
I'm gonna go back and watch that scene now, and I hope all of our listeners do too.
I'll find a screenshot, and I will make a meme, and I will post it on Twitter.
Yes.
But this is right before the son grabs the wrong little girl, and he starts running off, and he just leaves his daughter behind, and the monster is like barreling towards her.
That was literally the scariest part of the movie to me. Like that thought of like, what if I left my daughter behind and grabbed the wrong hand? Like that was legit deep for me. I don't know.
Well,
oh yeah, definitely.
There's that moment, especially in that type of chaos, that there have been stories of people doing that where they grab the wrong kid or they thought their child was with them. Like the 2004, I think, tsunami in Indonesia. Like people thought, at least their loved ones were next to them, and all of a sudden they're gone. Or earthquakes and Hurricane Katrina and all these moments. When a natural disaster takes place, or there's some type of uprising or rioting or things like that. The first thing a lot of people checked is to make sure that the people that they came with are still with them. And it's completely different when it's children. There's that concern, especially as a father, where you're worried about, am I going to be able to get my child out of this situation? But then the fear that comes, like with you, James, that fear that comes with, I have my kid, and I look, I'm like, oh shit, that's not my kid. Where's mine? And everything that's going on is telling you something bad is going to happen to this kid. Or something bad is going to happen to my kid, and I can't do anything about it.
And even the way it's shot, like, there's a lot of comedic shots in this. Like, I don't know that they're necessarily going for humor, but they're funny shots sometimes. And this scene, like, the way he slows down his run and the terror on his face when he flips around, like, it really sold it for me. I thought this was a fantastic scene.
Definitely, yeah. And I love the way that the monster takes the girl, because you see it barreling towards her and you think, oh, this thing's just going to eat this girl. And then it veers off to the left and then the tail whip just snatches her. I thought that was just a wonderful shot. Like, really beautiful cinematography. Like, it's a very well thought out scene.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know why. Like
well, that's a confusing thing, is that they never give you rules for the monster. Like, you don't know why they're discerning between eating some and just kidnapping others, because it's hoarding bodies, right? It's doing that whole, I don't know, I would equate it to like Pennywise or any horror movie trope, like the monster from Super 8 or the Demigorgon. like the Jeepers Creepers guy, just hoarding people and bodies for later. But they never explain why. Yeah.
If she was like one of the only kids there, I would get it. You know, like I wouldn't need an explanation. I could figure that out on my own, but she's not.
There's so many kids. Yeah, there's so many kids.
Very odd.
And then when he takes her and swims across the river to the other side, I was like, is there nobody living on the other bank of this river? Like, I get that that's like a safe place for it, but why?
It's like a gang. They're like, oh, we're not allowed to go on that territory.
But there's high rises and beautiful buildings on that side of the river.
And none of those people even know that there's a fish monster out there because none of them came out to look. So.
Hell, none of those people probably know there's anybody on the other side of the riverbank.
Right. So
what are the Poors doing today?
This is why we don't go outside. But which is similar to why I don't go outside.
On the 45th floor.
Exactly. And then it swings up and takes them out too. I would like to see that. That would have been fun. So then we get to this memorial scene you were talking about. Oh, and number one, like, it always amazes me how, like, you have something like a mass shooting or whatever. You always get, like, these memorials of lots of people, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm always amazed at how quickly, even in real life, people are able to pick out their loved ones in the photos. Like, you're already in a terribly traumatic situation, you know, like, your brain's not working right. It amazes me that people can just walk up and go find him right away.
Yeah.
And in film, I know we can't spend 10 minutes while they walk around going, where is she? You know, but it's always weird to me how they like walk in the door and know exactly where it is. Like they got some like GPS coordinates or some shit. and then you add in like, this is the first time, or at least it feels like the first time the whole family has been together in a while. And they're instantly fighting. And we get that weird scene you were talking about where they're all bawling on the ground. Mm-hmm. And my question to you is, what the fuck is this about? Like, okay, why is this in the film?
I have an explanation for this.
Excellent.
This is like part of what you're talking about, like scenes becoming comical even though they shouldn't be, right? And this is like a classic trope of Korean drama movies. Just the like exuberant, sloppy emoting, falling to the floor, convulsing. It becomes a soap opera almost. Like this is the way they show emotion.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I actually told my wife while we were watching this, because I knew it was for comedic advice, but I told her, I was like, God, they got the Koreans in here reacting like black people at funerals. And she just looked at me and I was like, you've been to a black funeral. It can get like that. Where, you know, there are people that in some cases that, in fact, my mother has specific instructions for her. She's like, I do not want a funeral because I do not want any of my relatives going up to the casket and falling out and passing out and catching the Holy Ghost and any of that shit. I just want to be buried and be left alone. So, I mean, it's deep.
That's so different than total white funerals because we're just there to make sure that motherfucker's dead.
Yeah, I'm there to find out when the inheritance is coming through. I'm in the will, right?
No, I really do feel like white people kind of have that though. Like there's always a fight at like every funeral I go to. Like not a physical fight, but there's always like, I got to sit on this side of the church because Sally's over there and fuck that bitch. And like, oh, she thinks that she misses him more than me. And I'm like, what? I don't know. Is it just that white people like have this thing where we think we're so much better than everyone else that even at your funeral, we don't care about you and it's all about us? Because that's how it fucking feels. And I don't know. Maybe that's just a Midwest thing. I guess I haven't been to any funerals around here. But like,
I was going to say it's because you're from the Midwest.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, so very different. We're not catching the Holy Spirit. We're making sure that people are dead or that, you know, we look better than people that didn't make it.
My experience of funerals on the West Coast is that there is no funeral. Everybody gets cremated because nobody's going to pay for that burial plot in California. And then months later, after you've forgotten this person even existed, you have like a wake or like a little remembrance party. And then you just argue about how much you hate the food. and then it ends, and then that's that person's life. That person has moved on. You've moved on. It's just done.
That's great. That sounds way more fun. I want to go to those.
So yeah, but at the vigil, I guess you'd call it, is where things start to really turn even worse for the family. And that's when you start getting this quarantine contagion vibe from the movie. So
we bring in that the government official guy, and we're just following this comedic scene of the people on the ground crying, And then we get my favorite comedy part of this, where the guy comes in the full protective gear, full hazmat suit, and he's walking through trying to look official, and then he just falls the fuck over and then pops back up like he didn't. What is that?
And then he's like, rather than explain what's going on to you, I'll just turn on the news. And the news isn't on.
He's just there to turn on the TV for all of you. But he couldn't do it with a remote from across the room. He has to walk through you, so he needs the hazmat suit. And then, the news isn't even on, so he can't do it that way. I think this is where the tone of the film is confusing to me. It's almost too much humor. I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. It's the reason I like this film, but I get why it might be problematic for other people. So we get to the news story finally, and they start filling us in. And you wanna explain this part, Thomas, with the virus instead of the, hey, there's a giant fish monster trying to kill people?
Yeah, I mean, this is when the CDC and the World Health Organization got a ton of screen time. Every news report was from those organizations, and it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the Americans explaining what was going on to the Koreans. Right? And I think the whole tone of this movie is, we're kind of blaming the Americans for what's going on, but the Americans are also the ones telling them what to do to remedy the situation. So it's a kind of a lose-lose for all these people involved in this attack.
Wouldn't it be better to say, hey, there's this crazy fish monster attacking people, and it's very contained, instead of, hey, there's a virus that's going to overtake the entire world? What am I missing here? Why does this become the story from the officials instead?
Yeah, we don't know why it's a government cover-up, and we don't know who they're protecting. We don't know that maybe that laboratory at the beginning with the formaldehyde was government-run, and they knew that that's what happened, or there's just, for whatever reason, they're causing more panic than is necessary, and they're not containing the actual problem, because you would think that the military they have monitoring the river would at least have boats in the river looking for this thing, but there's nobody in the river. There's just people on the banks waiting for people to get near the river. So they never explain really why the government's involved in such a way and why they're so guarded about this creature.
And even with the river, the boats that are there, it appears that they're just spraying, some type of, I guess, fogging device to let you know, hey, we're spraying for the virus. We're letting you know. For anybody who's out there, just as long as you're not exposed to this, you'll be fine.
Right.
And I guess it also comes down to not just controlling, or at least controlling a couple of different ways, but controlling the virus that people who have not seen the fish monster, controlling the virus in their minds of saying, hey, you could get sick if there's somebody that you've been associated with. They're sick. So make sure you turn them in, or at least get them some help, so they can then be quarantined. So then it comes into, it basically becomes a government cover-up at that point. And like you said, it's not clear why, but I think the cool thing is there isn't that explanation as to why, because even when the one American doctor, the one American scientist comes in and he explains to the Korean scientist, he's like, oh yeah, that other guy who had a fever, had the virus, whatever it was, he didn't actually have one. There is no virus. But even then, there's not that explanation of, hey, here's why we made up the story. It just becomes, just shut the fuck up, do your job, we'll go home.
And I think that's what I don't understand about this film, and what makes me not like parts of it is, it would make more sense to me the other direction. If there was this virus that they didn't want to admit to, so they were blaming everything on this monster. And it was, no, it's completely just this area, even though it's spreading and it's getting to other places. That makes way more sense to me, instead of the monster's over here. There's no real virus, and let's blow up and make everybody talk about a virus that doesn't exist. I don't understand it. So I didn't know if I was missing something, but it doesn't sound like it. That's problematic for me.
Yeah, there are gaps in the story, but I feel like in most monster movies there are gaps in the story.
Of course, yeah. But I complain about those too. So
fair enough.
So we get the officials come in and they're like, has anyone come into contact with the monster? And then, being an idiot, he's our main guy with the bleached hair raises his hand and he's like, me, I was stupid. I touched it. I'm stupid. Take me away. Let me sign right up for this shit. And, his alcoholic brother is like trying to pull his hand down. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And, they come over and they just grab him and take him away. I don't know. Like, I like how this actually works. Like, this is a terrible plan. Let's go in there and just ask them and they'll tell us. That's not a good plan. Anyone with a rational mind is going to be like, oh, no, fuck that shit. I ain't telling them shit, But our buddy with no protein, he's like, yep, me over here. So, yeah. I don't know. What did you guys think of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's what I expected to happen. I remember. It's like they've established that this character's stupid. So, of course, he's going to single himself out.
I'm on the fence with him at that moment because, I mean, with this movie, I definitely feel like, yeah, you shouldn't have. But then you have to get in that mindset, or at least that consideration that, he had the monster's blood on him. So maybe he's thinking, oh, shit, I got its blood on me. So maybe they'll be able to help. But then also with, current health crises, there's so many people that don't want to, or for that matter, can't financially afford to get tested. And there are also people who, because of ignorance and because of the way things are being presented to them, are confused about how to appropriately take care of themselves or anyone around them, to where they're being told, hey, the coronavirus will be fine, once it gets warmer. Oh, and if you got the coronavirus, it's fine for you to go to work. When we should be having this discussion of, or at least that faith that we should have within a governmental structure. Hey, if you are sick, you need to talk to these people. But at least in the U.S., that historically, not just the current nudniks, historically, the government's fucked up so badly with it, or even had medical experimentation on people to where, if the government comes looking for you, yeah, I'm not going to say a fucking word. Okay, I might have the coronavirus, I might have Ebola, but I'm not going to fucking say anything to you because I know things could be worse.
And I feel like this is another instance where time makes a huge difference. Mm-hmm. Like today, the scene would be like, somebody loaded this shit to Instagram and we saw you and you have the bleached hair and this is you, motherfucker.
Right. Yeah.
And that would be a better scene, but that really doesn't play in well in 2006. So, yeah, I don't know. I just find it weird, but that's me. So, what do you think about, like, once they have him quarantined and they're doing whatever they're going to do to him? It's kind of a weird scene to me. Like,
wait, are you talking about later on when he's like strapped in and they're going to like drill his head? Or are you talking about when he's like waiting with his family and he still has his cell phone?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's weird to me that they didn't take away his personal belongings, and he still has a cell phone and he gets the call from his daughter. And it just seemed very forced, just to keep the story going. And then it seemed very easy for them to get out of the hospital.
Yeah, but it just doesn't make sense to me after how he was just pulled out. They put him in that like yellow bag thing and haul his ass out of there. And then
all of a sudden he's in like general population.
Yeah. And like, they even point out like, oh, the doctors aren't wearing masks. Like, you're fine, and like your family's still there. So what was the point of hauling you out this way?
You know what I think it might have been? That these doctors knew that there was no risk because there was no actual virus. I think the government was just trying to contain everybody who was there to keep it quiet.
Right.
And their way of isolating these people and getting rid of them is telling them that they're exposed to a virus.
I guess that makes sense, because then hauling him out that way would also instill fear in everyone else, and now they don't want to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, I can accept that. But that was my problem with it. I was like, if you're going to go through this trouble of hauling him out this way, why would he suddenly just be hanging out? Like, it was weird. So yeah, thanks for that.
And the getaway was weird to me, because where did they find these mercenaries? You know, like, I don't know. The way that they get out, they get a truck, they get all these weapons, the dad spends all of his money. How did they get from point A to point B? Like, where did they find this person? Was it somebody that the uncle knew, or is it just they never explain it?
and then we have the sister being slow again and not getting in right away. Like,
just taking her time.
Like, yeah, she's like, oh, we're escaping from a hospital. I better stop and tie my shoe over here and check out this car. Maybe I'll meet a nice doctor on the way out. You know, like, what the fuck is she doing? It's so odd. And then they get in and they get away. Like you said, where the fuck did these people come from? I have so many questions about this whole aspect of the film.
So this would have worked with Parasite, because they could have just pulled them up on an app, you know, I guess like you would with anybody else, like Uber or Lyft or something. But it's 2006, so that stuff wasn't there.
Right? That'd be pretty great, though. Like, Uber shows up and they have guns. It's like a new service they offer. It's only available in major cities.
Uber mercenaries, yeah.
But yeah. All right. You want to walk us through the next part?
Oh, gosh. What even happens? Oh, they get out and they pay $500 for this Xerox copy of the sewer maps. Because the only clue they have is that she said, "I'm in a sewer." Right. And so yeah, they're looking for, and then there's like this side little story where there's two homeless boys who are also in the sewers, and they end up getting taken by the monster, I guess is what we're gonna call it, and they get taken to the same place the daughter is, and one of them is regurgitated and still alive, and then she and him form this little, I guess, partnership. But that whole deal down in the sewer with her, it's another reason why I don't like that character, because she's so ruthless. And I get that it's a survival situation, but every time the creature comes back, she's like, man, I hope this dead guy has a phone that works. Or,
right.
You know, she's like, later in the movie when she's trying to get out and jump, you know, up the monster and out, she like tells the little boy, like, you're going to stay here. I'm going to go. So there's not a lot of care with her.
At least she didn't send him out to be bait.
I'm sure there was a version of the script where she uses that kid as bait, and they were like, maybe that's too much.
Yeah, I would have liked that version.
But eventually they do, the group, the family find the monster, and they're like shooting at it. And that's when they get chased out onto the banks of the river, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're out on the riverbank, and they've used all of their ammunition in the sewer, and the dim-witted son is like, oh, I have one more round left. So the grandfather takes it, and he has this like really heroic action hero scene where he's walking up towards the monster, he cocks the shotgun, he pulls the trigger, and like it's click. Right, there's no round, and the son realizes as he's counting the shots in his head, like, "Oh, I fucked up again."
Well, I think Grandpa fucked up listening to him too. Like,
yeah. Oh, but we skipped the whole scene where Grandpa's explaining why the son is slow-witted and telling
I was just gonna bring that
nice
up.
To him. Yeah, you talk about it.
I love this scene. Like, what I love about it is it's so true to every family that I've ever met, because, you know, the dim-witted son, as you call him, he's sleeping. And then Dad's like, hang on. Hey, is he really that pathetic to you guys? And they're both like, yes.
Have you met this guy?
I love that so much. Like, that's so real to me. And I'm starting to realize I have a really fucked up life. Anyway, so like, then he tells this story of how he was gone all the time and never came home, and the poor kid grew up without a mom, and you should feel bad for him, and how he had to like go into other people's farms and steal their food to eat. And like, he's saying all this about how you should feel bad about this guy, but all I'm thinking is, God, you're a fucking asshole. Come home and take care of your kid if you knew all this was going on. Like, And then I think it's weird that they somehow now have this food stand. And this kid who had to steal food his whole life is now in charge of it, basically.
Right.
Like,
and he's stealing the food.
Yeah. And it's such a weird, I don't know, the whole thing's weird to me. But this story of how he's a little slow because he didn't get enough protein. Like, what the fuck, man? Like,
you don't know those? You didn't have a kid like that in your class? Like, oh, who's that? Oh, that's Slow Timmy. He didn't get enough protein when he was a kid.
Maybe not. I grew up in Nebraska, so everything's protein, and we don't get enough vegetables instead. So
it might be just the Korean thing that we're just not in tune with.
I don't know. I find the whole thing, it's a very odd story. All I'm saying is I feel like Grandpa takes no responsibility for the way that he grew up. Like, he's just like, I never came home. And this is what this kid had to go through. You should feel bad for him. You should feel bad for being an asshole and making your kid grow up this way.
Right.
And then why didn't the other two grow up this way? That's my other question.
But they kind of did, because the uncle's a drunk, right? Like, the little girl was complaining about how he smelled of alcohol when he came to speak to her class. So he was messed up a bit. The only one that was a straight shooter was the daughter. But they were all messed up in their own way, I think.
He's not making excuses for anybody else, though.
As much as gang do.
Yeah, it's just such a weird story to me. And then, like you said, we get this scene where Grandpa goes to fight the monster, and I love that the gun doesn't work, I
love that scene. Oh, it's such a good scene, because you know it's coming. Like, you see it coming, and it pays off.
As soon as he walks over there, you're like, there's an hour left in the film. This isn't ending well.
Right. It's like, I bet he's out of shotgun shells. It's coming. It's got to happen this way.
Maybe they did that scene that I was just bitching about to make you care about him less when you know this is coming.
Maybe. Like, he's finally doing something for his kids. Is that what it is? Like,
maybe,
But then Gang Do is stupid enough to stick around because he can't let go of his father's body. That, it really slows him down even more. I love when he picks up like this wet newspaper and just covers his dad's face. Like, you could tell he really cared about his dad, and it's sad.
Well, the other two seem like they didn't.
Oh, the other two got the hell out of there.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like he's always the one that cares about the family, Because
it's all he has. He has nothing outside of the family.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody else found something else to care about, and he's still there and cares about the family instead. He's the one that cares about the daughter the most. I mean, obviously it's his daughter, but you know what I mean. And he's the one that stays behind to help Dad with the food stand. Maybe his options weren't great, but, that's still what he does. He's cheering on his sister while she's at the Olympics. He's, being a cool dad and giving his kid a beer for some reason. And but really, like, he's the only one, like, it really endears us more to him because he is the one that cares. And so I really thought like this whole family was going to die because I was like, they're shitty people. Like, he's going to be the only one that survives. And then, like, gets his kid back, right? Like, that's where I thought this film was going. And then instead, it's like, it's basically all about how the remaining members have to come together to defeat the monster.
Yeah, but when the dad dies and he sticks around, that's when he gets quarantined for a second time.
Right.
Yes.
And this is when things get even stranger. And I think this is right around the same time as your favorite scene, James, the one you messaged me about right after you watched it.
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to talk about that?
No. Go ahead.
No. You talk about it, because after you talk about that, I want to talk about my favorite thing about the movie.
Okay. So yeah, it's that scene where they show the people. Are they waiting for a bus? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, they're like waiting.
Or to cross, I think. Either waiting for a bus or waiting to cross.
And there's, like water standing in the road, basically. And the one guy starts coughing, and the woman next to him's like tapping her friend, like, look at this motherfucker. And then he pulls her out of the way a little bit, and then that guy just sneezes so hard into the water. And you just get that gross, like, ew, but like they're all paranoid because of the virus and people coughing near them and maybe not washing their hands, And then somebody hits the water and splashes everybody with this infected water. And their reactions are so priceless to me. Like, this is exactly how I view coronavirus right there. And I literally stopped the movie to write you. I was like, this scene is amazing. And then Don tells me it's a meme that he's seen before.
Oh, yeah. And I kept wondering where it came from. But what's crazy about that scene is, I don't know if any of you, James and I've talked to him about Black Twitter. But Asian Twitter has had fun with coronavirus because of all the people that are being racist towards it. The nonviolent racism that they're receiving. There were a couple of, actually more than just a couple, but there were some people who had gone to Instagram and to Twitter and basically said, I'm just going to fuck with people. So I'm just going to wear my mask inside of this grocery store because they were looking at me funny when I came in. So I put a mask on. And you know what? Everybody's left me the fuck alone while I've been shopping. So I yay for racism.
All right. One of you walk us through this new quarantine scene and the many weird things that happen here.
Oh, this is my favorite part of the movie for a lot of reasons. But I love that they quarantined him a second time. They got him strapped to a table. And it's an American doctor who is cross-eyed. I think his eyes weren't right.
Yeah, he had a lazy eye.
Yeah.
He had a lazy eye. For no reason at all. It was actually just very distracting. And he's explaining to his colleague a secret that there's no virus at all in earshot of, Gang Du. And of course, Gang Du is like, well, there's no virus. I don't need to be here. Like, unstrap me. And the doctors are like, we're just going to, take care of this guy. Make sure he can't talk about it. And they wheel him over to where the drill is and seemingly going to give him a lobotomy. And you would think, like every other movie like this, he's going to find his way to weasel out of it, but he doesn't. And he gets a lobotomy. Right. And for whatever reason, that lobotomy unlocks his potential. He becomes a superhero after that. He's making good decisions. He has like focus. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't know what a lobotomy does. I had
well, apparently these doctors don't either because they didn't do it correctly.
They fixed it. They made him better.
They had the technology.
They had the technology. They remediated the protein deficiency, and they made him a fully functional action hero.
That's what was in the syringe. It was pure liquid protein.
And he just comes out with this like head bandage, and he's like, I know exactly where I'm going. And I love that. Like, I truthfully though, I would have loved it even more if he had been catatonic in like a wheelchair, and like his siblings came to pick him up, and they were still looking for his daughter, but just pushing him around the whole time. But I'm happy with them not explaining why the lobotomy made him, smart again, or just smart at all. I love that. I love that part about the movie because it doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't. And like you said, he just becomes the opposite of what you expect here. He literally unlocks his potential, like you said. And it's so weird. Like, I was sitting there and I'm just like, what in the fuck is happening? But at this point, I don't even care anymore because I'm like, now this is great. Like, embrace the weirdness of this.
He gets out and then he knows where he's going, and it's around the same time that the siblings have kind of figured it out. I think that the brother is off with a homeless guy making Molotov cocktails.
Right. And
the daughter has her tactical bow from the Olympics. Because why get a real weapon? Just bring your work home, Take your bow with you. And she's in the sewer, and the creature is like coming towards her, and you think she's gonna have this shot and take him out, but she just gets like whipped to the side and falls into this. It's one of 3 times in this movie where I just audibly laughed because it's so Funny. She just gets fucking whacked against this wall, and you think, oh, that person's dead. But she's not.
Right.
She's still alive. She hits that concrete wall so hard, though.
I would just like to be in this writing meeting. They're like, we got to get rid of her for a while. What do we do? Let's just knock her out for 20 minutes. How? Oh, well, here you go. And then you have the brother had gone to like a friend to trace the call to like find out where the little girl is. And the whole time you're like, you know, this is a setup because we've seen movies, right?
Right.
And they do the whole thing where he gets him to the screen where he could trace the call. And then he's like, oh, that password isn't working. Let me go in this other room. And the friend goes in the other room and there's like 18 people in there waiting to do this. And he's like, he doesn't know where the sister is. What do I do? Right. And then eventually he realizes he's under attack, but he's found the correct password, which is on a sticky note nearby. and he's located where the call came from so that he can go stalk down his little niece. And my question, like to the writers on this, is why the fuck did you get him to this screen before you did that? You don't even have to make up a reason. You can be like, dude, I got to take a shit. I'll be right back.
Right.
And you didn't have to get him to the code screen or anything. Like, you've already got him in the office. Like, it's so weird to me that they went above and beyond to give him the answer as to where everything's going to be. When
Not only that, but his friend basically tells him, or at least gives him a hint, you're going to get ratted out, because it starts talking about, man, I got like 60,000 in credit card debt. And I'm thinking, like, that's not a conversation that friends normally have at a time like this.
Right.
As soon as he said that, I was like, there's some fucking reward money.
Yep.
This guy's mentioning how much he's in debt, because whenever you do anything, you get your what's it called? Your security clearance. One of the things that they at least the Office of Personnel Management reviews is your credit history and your debt, because they use that as a way to say, well, you know what, if we give you security clearance, somebody could come in and possibly offer you money to fuck over the American government. But I just figure from now on I'll just run for office.
Yeah, I thought when the Trump administration
get some
hires
cool
you,
hats.
somebody's giving you money to fuck over America.
You know, that's the way it works now, at least. But yeah, as soon as he said that, I'm like, that's the friend's going to sell him out. He's going to sell him out. And then he goes behind that not the partition, but goes in that next room over. And there's like a whole fucking team of, I guess the equivalent of a tactical team, or maybe a SWAT team, that's waiting and saying like, all right, he's by himself. All right, cool. All right. And even at that moment, he's not worried about, hey, I'm fucking over my friend. It's like, yeah, what about the reward money? And the cop then tells me, like, yeah, it's double if it's this. It's like, all right.
How much is this reward that many people think they're cashing in together? This is like a group buying Powerball tickets. It's so weird to me. But I love the, they come in and like, this is so weird. They all come in to attack him and like basically announce, we're attacking you. And then, he kills the lights and he disappears and does this whole crazy Houdini trick basically, and somehow ends up outside the office. But again, this is such a weird way to do things. Like, the friend could have come back in and like gone over there, so he'd be like standing right next to him so that when the others arrive, he could grab him. But no, this is a terrible, terrible plan with this much money on the line.
Why don't you take him back to the room where those people are and be like, this is the computer that we can trace the thing on, and he just gets ambushed. Like, why not do it that way?
Right? Yeah, I don't know. This is not a well thought out plan.
Well, it's a movie, so.
Exactly. And when he's meeting his friend in a dark alley to begin with, and his friend steals a suit for him or whatever that shit was, like, what is that about?
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
That was very odd. Back to what you were saying, like the brother ends up in like this area where he's making Molotov cocktails or like getting bottles from a homeless man and then going on an adventure with him basically while he makes the cocktails. And this is another weird scene to me. Like, I feel like that extra person didn't serve any purpose.
Well, he had the gasoline.
I guess, but like, I don't know. Once you make it, like, do you really need him? Like, why is he coming along? It was weird.
Did he offer to pay him?
He like offers to pay him, and then the guy like knocks it out of his hand.
I remember he paid the taxi driver triple fare, but it was hard to get there because of the protesters on the other side of the river, right? Like that was part of the problem.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole family's coming together. They know where the little girl should be. Well, what's left of the family. I guess granddad isn't there anymore. But, so the three siblings are coming together, and we finally get the monster back again. And I don't know.
Can we talk about the monster regurgitating just skeletons?
Yes, go ahead.
I thought that was an incredible scene. Like I love that. I love just the cascading bones out of this creature. I thought that was just a really cool visual that you didn't expect to see. Because you never see monsters regurgitating things. You see them eat them and you just take it for face value. But this thing is just throwing up bones, and I thought that was just a really cool scene.
It is. And I like how she's watching it like half in terror, and yet she's still looking to see if there's a phone in there.
Yeah. Well, but she saw the can of beer, and she was like, well, maybe if I drink that.
Man.
But then that's when the monster kind of goes into its sleep, right? It's like, oh, I've had enough to eat. I've processed it. It's nap time. And then that's when she tries to make her grand escape. That just does not go well.
No, it does not. And, that was actually a good fake out, at least for me. I really thought that was how she was going to get out. Like when she first builds the little grappling hook thing and it's hanging, but she can't reach it. Yeah. I was like, I want to see her run up this monster. Like, I hope that's where this is going. And then the payoff was even better, because that would have been my first question. How does she run up the monster and he doesn't notice, But he definitely notices.
Yeah, that's a cool scene where she's holding on to the clothes and then all of a sudden she's levitating because you're realizing that the monster has her in his tail.
I was going to say, this is another part where I thought it was going to go like splice tail. Like, I didn't think the tail would be wrapped around her. I thought it was going to be jammed through her.
Oh, that would have been cool.
And I was like, this would be great. Like, they spend all this time trying to get there and they almost make it on time.
But
yeah, initially I thought she was dead as well.
But yeah, then she gets immediately eaten, and then the other homeless boy gets eaten as well, and you just see their bodies hanging out of the mouth for the better part of the rest of the movie. The daughter gets eaten with the homeless boy, and the monster is running through the sewer, and it passes the family. At this point, I think the family is all back together. It's the three siblings and that homeless guy. And it cuts to across the riverbank where there's this protest going on, where they're protesting the government using chemicals to remediate the situation. And I wanted to bring up that the chemical is called Agent Yellow, which I felt like was a little bit racist.
Right.
It's like, ooh, like that one made me really oof. It's not they could have picked a better name for that. And then you see the monster swimming across the river, and then the protesters look and they're like, oh, like that's the thing. And then it comes up and it's destructive as it usually is. And I wanted to bring up one thing about the monster. While I was reading about this movie, apparently the temperament of the monster is based on Steve Buscemi's character from Fargo.
That's what I read, yeah.
It's like just this destructiveness, the lack of remorse, the hiding in plain sight. Like they took that character and turned it into a fish creature. And I love that. I love it.
So should we just call the monster Steve?
He kind of looks like Steve Buscemi. A little bit. If you squint, you're like, is that Steve?
Well, especially, I don't know if you've ever seen Steve eat children, but it's really similar. So, yeah, I can see it.
The regurgitating, that's why he's so skinny. He's throwing up these bones.
That's what I've been doing wrong.
Yeah, so the monster kind of attacks like that protest area, and that's when they release Agent Yellow. And it doesn't kill the monster, but it kind of stuns the monster.
Right.
But it's it's also hurting the people that are there. The protesters are standing there in solidarity, but they're bleeding from the ears, bleeding from the eyes, and they look like they're going to die as well. And it's during the scene where you see a fish fall off of the monster,
right?
And you're like, oh, that's the sequel, right? Like, there's more than one of these things now, because they never get rid of that fish later. It's just kind of there, and they never talk about it. And I thought that was interesting. But this is the big final battle sequence. One of you guys want to talk about it?
Yeah, I was glad that you could finally see how the family itself has become incompetent at this moment, and even the homeless guys, as you were mentioning, I didn't seem to have that much of a purpose, but he's the one at the end that's pouring the gasoline or pouring the fuel on the well, I guess we can call him Carl the fish, or Steve, because I think the character in Fargo was Carl.
It was Carl, yeah.
He's pouring all the gasoline and the fuel on the fish monster to expedite any type of expedite death by using the flaming arrows from the sister. And it was good to see that they were all working together to do this, because before, it was, aside from when they were shooting at it, there was no coordination. So, there's no real coordination with respect to the way the government is tackling this. I mean, other than covering it up and quarantining people, but there's no coordination of response. And now you get to see the family doing this, as far as they're all going up and attacking this thing. The brother's got the Molotov cocktails. Then, of course, he's pushing the monster away because he's trying to avoid the fire from the Molotov cocktails. And this one Molotov cocktail you think is going to do it, it slips out of his hand and bursts and breaks on the ground. And the sister, which, you're like, oh, shit, they're getting things together. And then all of a sudden, are you fucking kidding me? The last Molotov you have, it slips out of your hand and shatters. I was halfway expecting him to catch on fire as a result of that, because it seemed too easy that it fell out of his hand to where it would have stayed near his feet, or at least right behind him.
Plus, he's always drinking. He might be covered in alcohol himself.
Right.
So.
That's a great point.
Sweating it out. But yeah, the sister then picks up that flaming cloth, wraps around an arrow, and shoots at the monster. And I thought it was a great kill for a monster movie. And at least with her, she got her redemption.
Kill. Yeah, and you get to see it die, and it's great. It's a great scene. But that's one of the scenes where the CGI really suffers, I think.
Yeah, the flames look terrible.
There's a real lack of realism. It looked better when it came out at the time, but now you watch it and you just think they could probably do such a better job now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with 14 years since it was made, that now the technology has changed, and because even I know this isn't a horror film, but what was that movie? Toy Story 4. Toy Story 3, the ending is very dark, but in Toy Story 4, the detail that they put into the CGI, or at least in the animation for that film, is remarkable, because you can see the threads in the fabric of what the toys are wearing, as opposed to the first one that came out. It wasn't that detailed. So something like this I would love to see redone.
Can I just point out really fast to our listeners that we did not plan on each making a Pixar reference, and it just worked out that way.
Very cool Pixar. I would love to see an animated Pixar remake of The Host.
So I don't have anything left. Do either of you?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. The ending, I think, is interesting, how he just kind of adopts this kid. The kid who didn't die, because the daughter dies. We didn't mention that, but the daughter dies, and he adopts the homeless boy. Spoiler, most of the family's dead. And then it ends, and I think it's a really good movie. I would love to see a sequel where, maybe that creature evolves even more and it can fly, or something like that. I would like to continue the journey of The Host.
I thought it was interesting that, after all this, the little girl dies, like you said. I I love that it waits. Like, as much as I wanted to see her impaled on the tail, like I talked about, I love that he gets to see it. He gets closure, you know?
Right.
And the whole part where he reaches in to grab her hand inside the monster, like, that was great, you know, bringing us back to the beginning when he grabbed the wrong hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then the end, like, their whole lives are forever changed by this monster.
Mm-hmm.
And they're two of the only people that had the experience that they each had. You know, like, nobody else was out there trying to save their kid. Nobody else was, like, actually taken and survived the monster. So I like how that bonds them. And I almost feel it's a more satisfying ending than if he had saved his daughter. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, I didn't like the daughter at all. So her death scene was a real payoff for me. But yeah, you see the homeless boy who lost his brother or travel companion, whoever that other kid was. And these two people who have lost so much because of this monster have now found each other. And they continue the family business. I thought it was a really sweet and, you know, comforting ending to a monster movie.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but that kid isn't drinking a beer at the end. What's up with that?
But he's getting his fair share of protein, right? He's getting fair protein.
Maybe that's where it all came from. Maybe if he hadn't intoxicated his daughter to begin with, she could have run faster. And
right,
none of this would have happened.
This is a PSA against underage drinking.
It's a very well hidden one. Thomas, why don't you tell everybody again where to find you on social media and not in real life so that we don't have to interact with others?
Yes, please don't find me in real life. You can find me on IMDb. Just go on Twitter and figure out that rabbit hole. Thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. All right, cool. Well, I don't know what we're doing next week yet, so I'm not going to talk about it. But until then, I am James Sabata.
And I am Don Guillory.
And we will see you next week on thenecronoma.com as long as we're not all dead.